So here we are looking at cats, and these are the first ones that I want to talk about. I've worn these babies for now like 2 to 3 years, and I've had Timberlands, and I literally hate them. I'm not a big fan of Timberland. But you know, before I really get into this, and I'm not going to go into detail like people at Rose Anvil do. But a big shout out to Rose Anvil. That website has really opened my eyes in some ways as to the construction of work boots and boots for, you know, whatever occasion that you are looking at. The only thing I don't think they've really done is like mucks and stuff like that. But I bought these before I saw Rose Anvil. And Rose Anvil with the YouTuber at Stridewise went head to head between these exact same cats and then some Timberland Pros. Now, I got these for like 80 bucks, long time ago. And there's a few things that sold me on it. First of all, these are steel-toed, and you can see here that this was almost a chainsaw accident right here. And I sort of scraped the toe, so this was totally my fault. But the one that's still pretty much in good shape is this one here. The leather is oil infused on these. They are not waterproof. One of the things that I like about cats that I hate about Timberlands is that all the Timberlands, especially the Timberland Pros, are what you would call waterproof and insulated. And so you got a bunch of insulation on the inside, and what I needed were boots that were better for hot and humid days mostly, because that's where I live. It certainly gets cold in the winter here for a little while, a couple of months or so, where I will put on like a heavyweight wool sock with these, and I fit just fine. They're true to size to me. Most everything is, but I'll tell you, it wasn't really the price that the cats that sold me on the cats. It was the fact that they were not insulated on the inside, and at the price point, I just really didn't want Timberlands. There's a few things though. I have worn these. I have not worn these every day, so that explains some of the longevity perhaps. I wear these when I'm in the garage, usually working on vehicles, or if I'm out at the property. I've really worn these out at the homestead, doing minor construction, chopping up, sawing up firewood, that type of thing. And these are in pretty good shape. Again, 2 to 3 years. This sole is, you know, sort of, as Rose Anvil said, it looks like a cat tractor track, and that's why they look like this. It's a softer rubber. On the inside of these, they're not going to be, I will say this, they're not going to be as soft as Timberlands. They're a little more, I would say, rugged on the inside. They have a steel shank, which was very important to me. And Timberlands do not. They have a composite shank, which means there's bends. You cannot bend these on the arch. And that was important to me, so that's why I got them. The last thing, and this is more of a risk than anything, but they are Goodyear welted. I like Goodyear welts. However, there's a big caveat with this, so pay attention here just a little bit. In just a second. I liked, because it was Goodyear welted, that they sewed through the toe here. This will prevent delamination off of it, and so I like that. I think the Timberlands are direct injected, something like that, so there's no welt on them, and you use those, you're one and done. With the cats, you have the opportunity to at least resole them. You may get two, you probably will get one, and you also may get none. And the reason for that is, and this is the drawback on the cats, is that this right here is a synthetic welt. And over time, these synthetic welts, which are plastic oriented, they will crack. Once these are cracked, you can't resole them anymore. So theoretically, cats are Goodyear welted and you can resole them. But if this Goodyear welt, which goes all the way around here, as you can see, cracks or starts cracking, you're done. You're gonna have to get a new pair of shoes because it won't be worthwhile. You can't fix a synthetic welt like you can on a traditional Goodyear welt, which would be a big thick piece of leather here that you can sew and attach up the rubber sole to. So the synthetic welt here is a bit sketchy. I'm not going to say sketchy. It's a price point thing for cat. So they're trying to cut costs, and if they would have put a leather welt in here, it would have made them significantly more expensive. Now, that said, they're not as comfortable as Timberlands. And yes, they are not going to be as wonderful on your feet as like a Timberland, which has a crap ton of foam in it. There's some foam in between the leather and the welt and the sole, but it's not a lot. So what I did with these, and you can probably see it down in there, I put in like a 2mm boot breaker, which helps. It's nothing special on the boot breaker stuff. I would encourage people to pick up something like Rose Anvil's boot breakers online and have them ship it to you. I really love their website and their products, and they really helped me going forward. When I bought these cats, I didn't know about Rose Anvil, but I'm glad I bought them and thought the way I did to make these my primary work boot, steel toe work boots. So obviously I've been taking pictures of this. You might have seen some pop up here as I'm talking, but these are a pretty good choice and pretty affordable. And you could get a couple of good years out of them, depending on your specific application and what you need these boots for. Again, I don't wear them every day, so I'm not on the job every day, so to speak. And but for what I have used the last 2 to 3 years, these babies have been perfect. I would easily buy another pair. These work boots are definitely ready for work. That is, they're not just called a work boot, and they're really not a work boot. You see this in other cheap brands. You even see Carhartt do stuff like this, which is totally irresponsible in my view. Brunts, stuff like that, crap. They're crap compared to these. These will actually hold you through at least a year. So anyway, on to the next one. Hang loose.
High quality leather, a thick outsole, a decent midsole. You have a Goodyear welt construction, so if something does go wrong, you can sew it back together. If you do make it through a season, you want to get them resold, you could get them resold. There's a lot of brands out there, like we talked about earlier. So there's a lot of brands that just use their good name, like Carhartt, to sell what they consider a work boot that isn't really ready for work. Yeah. And I would say these Caterpillar boots are ready for work for that.
Next up is a little bit of a blast to the past, at least in the name, because they are and were this name a part of Sears. Now, are these true Sears boots? I doubt it. I think that they just took the name. Now, these boots I have worn, and usually I wear them because they're a little flatter. There's not such a pronounced heel on these. I wear these in the shop when I'm on cement all day long. They're very comfortable, and you can tell why. They're made in China, by the way. But the one thing I did like about these boots, and I have not had them very long, a year, and I use them to paint auto body stuff, and I made a big mistake. So these are a new bucky kind. I mean, they're not suede, but they're sanded down, And they do look kind of like Timberlands. They are supposedly Goodyear welted, and just like the cats that I showed you, they sewed through the toe, which that's one of the things I really like when boots do this. I am not sure if they, hold on here, let me see here. Man, I'm telling you, it's, yeah, I think I'm not going to cut these in half, and Rose Anvil has not looked at these. But I'm pretty sure this is a composite shank because I can bend it. Whereas with the cats, they have a steel shank in it. Good luck. Your arch support is always going to be there. These are a cheaper made boot in my opinion. And you can tell here. Supposedly they're Goodyear welted. Once again though, we have the composite welt here, which if it cracks, you're done. You'll never be able to resole these. Technically, can you? Yeah. Do I expect them to? Not these for some reason. I expect the cats to maybe last me one resole. They're not waterproof, but you can see here they're definitely more comfortable, and you can see that from the construction. This is the composite welt here, the plastic, PVC, whatever this is here, that cracks or could crack. Then there's a level of foam right here. You can see the wider section, and then more foam, and then it's really not thick. The sole is not thick on these. So I would wear through these, although I wear them specifically when I'm on cement, that's it. So maybe they'll last because I'm not out walking in uneven terrain and over rocks and stuff like that. But your sole's gonna wear out. I don't know what the Shore is on these soles, but I'm gonna guess it's soft. It's possible it's not. It's possible that they went up with a harder Shore to make the sole last longer. But yeah, I do like the Goodyear welt. You can see here it says DieHard on the bottom. So yeah, they probably stole the name from Sears. But another thing, I love this. These are a stripped down boot. Absolutely no lining. This is real leather. I'm gonna guess it's, I don't know, since I don't have, it's gotta be 2 mil or less. It's gotta be 2. And even on the inside, it does look like they have an extra lining here. That could be a fake lining. Could be a fake lining right here. But most of it's leather, and then I didn't notice this on the cats. But they have it's either a suede or a leather heel counter here down inside the boot. That's very important because this is the first place that you're going to wear through something really inside the boot, is on the heel counter. I didn't put any boot breakers or anything in this. They are comfy. So that tells me they're a little cheaper construction. They're built more like Timberlands in a way, except that they're more cut down and definitely better for sort of hot and humid environments. And since I only wear them really when I'm in a garage or on cement all day long, the cats would hurt my feet, to be honest with you, if I wore the cats in that situation all the time. But these are good enough to, you know, knock around and wear on really hard, smooth surfaces all day. So yeah, so DieHard here, and you can see the link in the description on these. Hang loose. All right, if you knock around on the internet enough, you're gonna find or run into people who buy Hisea. Look, these are really cheap. These are steel-toed. And the reason why I wanted these is because they were steel-toed. I bought these years and years and years ago. I don't wear them very often because I needed something quick. I wanted something sort of Western that came up the leg a little bit to protect your lower part of your leg. These are, I won't buy these again, not because they haven't served their purpose. They have, and I haven't worn them very much. And you can see on the bottom here that my soles are pretty pretty well. I'll wear these in particular. I'll wear these when I'm mostly just chopping wood, that type of thing, and sawing up wood. They're lined on the inside. I mean, here's the part so you can tell how cheap they are. These are just a nylon lining in here. I would appreciate it better if it was just plain leather. And then again, I don't even know if these are leather, but I think they are. The uppers appear to be leather. And I'm just looking here at the shank. I'm pretty sure it's a composite shank. It's not a steel shank. Now, they purport to be Goodyear welted. I think that's bullshit. They're not sewed through the toe. There's no sewing. It's possible. It's possible there's a Goodyear welt going on here, but I really don't know. There's a shit ton of foam on these. You can see here, this is all foam, and then the rubber sole is here, so it's a really, really thin rubber sole. You're going to wear through these things quick. And then a thick bunch of foam here. Then a small piece of more foam, and then once again a synthetic welt, which on these I'm gonna guess, I'm just guessing, on these they're gonna crack quickly. The more I wear these, the more that they will be, they're pretty much one and dones. But a lot of people buy Hiseas because they're cheap. I mean, you can find them for 50, 60, 70. I don't know what they're running for now, but I know that's about how much they were. Another thing on the inside, the sizing on these, by the way, they don't do half sizes. I think it starts at 8 and then goes up from there. And when you're at a half size like I am, you have to size up to be safe. And they're a little too big, so I have boot breakers in these to sort of fill the void, about 2-3 millimeter insoles in them. They're comfortable, I'm not going to lie to you about that. However, the one thing you can always tell with something's cheap is inside down deep there's the heel counter. You should always look for that. Now this one is cheap because this is just basic fabric. I mean, you can tell inside there. It's just a basic white fabric that you might be able to see down inside, that these will wear out very quick from the inside, maybe before you even get to the sole, which I do not believe is resolable. I think this, I just don't think, based on what little I know, Rose Anvil's never looked at something so cheap as this. So, probably for good reason. But these are pretty, I would say these are pretty one and done. But have they served their purpose for me? Yeah. Do I wear them all the time? Absolutely not. They're basically something I needed right away. Didn't have a lot of money to spend. Bought them knowing that I was going to be looking for something better to replace them down the road. And I still haven't, by the way. I'm still looking. I'm still going to find like a Western pair. A Western pair. I love Western boots. And so I'll be looking for something like this when these wear out. Also, just another thing here is on the stitching here on the side. This is a synthetic and a plastic seam right here. That's just bush league. But for the price, you would expect it. Rose Anvil did influence me to buy these. I was looking for something that I wanted as I upped my game a little bit around the shop. And you can see the link. I may even put some Rose Anvil stuff in here. These are, call it whatever it is. These are either Chelsea's or Romeos or Chelsea's. Who the hell knows? But Georgia boot. Rose Anvil did a very good job on these. I've barely worn these. These are Goodyear welted for real, all the way through the toe again here. And is it synthetic? I'm trying to remember if it's synthetic. I'll pop it up, the video here, and let Rose Anvil say it for himself if he doesn't mind that. But I'm going to give him the shout out. So
let's see what's inside. Toaster. You ruined the shot, bud. Let's try it again. So the biggest thing that stood out to me is the shank. Shoes almost never have a shank, and even when they do, they're mostly just a gimmick. And you can also see on the inside that it's a fiberboard lasting board, which is more of what you see in work boots rather than like the fabric lasting that you see inside of a Strobel stitch sneaker, because sneakers are more built around flexibility and lightweightness, versus boots are more for stability and comfort underfoot. And that's why you see so much foam in here as well, because underneath of that insole, you've got a layer of a little bit higher density foam with a really soft latex foam underneath. And then underneath the fiberboard, you've also got another layer of foam. And then the midsole layer that the welt is sewn to is a really soft rubber midsole. So a lot of squish underfoot. But the one thing you might notice is there's zero leather all throughout the sole construction. And that's because this is a $108 boot. You know, it's not too surprising to see that. And if you are gonna put some leather in a boot, you do want it in the upper, because it is a better material than pretty much anything out there for the upper. Whereas the rest of these materials, it is a lot nicer and more durable to have leather. But for $108, it's not out of the question. You usually see this in boots up to that $200 price range. That's really where Georgia has carved out a spot for themselves. You know, they're not trying to compete with those $200 to $300 boots. They're a nice entry-level boot that is still built like those more expensive boots, but the materials are more affordable materials.
I just thought I'd quickly add here to the Romeos. These are electrical hazards. I got these in partly also because I'm going to be doing a lot of electrical wiring, and I wanted a pair of boots that were electrical hazard, had an electrical hazard protection component to it, and these Georges definitely do that. So anyway, hang loose. All right, these are not work boots. Moving on to like some Western boots here. I've got a couple of really what I would call more dressy Western boots. These are my original Ropers. And I like these. I like these a lot because they're shorter. They don't come as far up the leg as a regular cowboy boot does. They are, you know, more for knocking around. I like the rounder toe. I mean, if you know anything about Ropers, you know, they're basically for getting in and out of the saddle pretty quickly, and yet still having somewhat of a heel to dig in. But I basically use these for like dress, or, you know, I mean, not work, let's put it that way. The one thing I'll say, I'm true to size on these, but they are a bitch to get in. So they're until they're broken in. So I'd have to use, there's an old trick. If you can't get your foot to go ka-thunk into the bottom here, where it goes thunk down like that, then what you use is like one of those plastic bags from a grocery store and wrap it around your foot. And that's exactly what I need to get into one of these boots. I used to have to do it with both, but so they are kind of a bitch to break in. And until they break in, then you're not going to get into them. So one of these boots, one side of these boots, I can get in without using the plastic bag trick. The other one, still waiting, baby. I'm still waiting for it. So the one thing, you know, about traditional cowboy boots or Western boots, obviously the leather sole, which I love, but they're really slick. That's why they're not work boots. You know, if you're gonna go out line dancing or something like that, man, these are the babies. They're Goodyear welted. They technically can be replaced. And I would expect for these to actually be be able to be replaced. Although this is a synthetic welt here. So again, cracking could be a problem, but I'm not using them for work. So they might last me a couple resoles. But you know, leather is very difficult to go through. The stitching is great. The stitching goes all the way through. So you know, I mean, at least you know that the stitching here ends up here. Stitching here ends up here. You know that this is a true welt. Even though, yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's cheaply, it's not a leather. There's no way this is a leather welt on these, but pretty strong arch support. I'm gonna guess though, it's possible it's steel actually on this one. Yeah, possible this is steel. Pretty no frills. Inside, there's no nylon, no, this is all leather. This is all leather in here. And even in the counter down below here, the all-important counter, because Western boots slip a little, your foot's always riding up and down the back. That's why they wear out on the counter so quickly, especially in Western boots. The counter here is definitely leather. So, pretty good pair of boots. I like them pretty plain Jane, to be honest. There's no stitching on these. The leather here did kind of get pebbled up over time. That came with wearing it, to be honest. I don't know if that's a bug or a feature. But in the end, I kind of like the pebbled look of these a little bit. You can see it here. See how it's pebbled? They weren't that way. They started out pretty smooth. All right, this is going to be a little bit of a blast in the past. Blast to the past, blast back to the past, back to the future, whatever. These were a mystery. These were gotten for me. And what's on the box is not what they are, but it was given to me in this box right here. Justin's are a storied company in the United States for obvious reasons. And these are, I'm gonna guess, I think they're 20 years old. Justin made most of their boots in the USA until somewhere around the 90s. And then, you can see, I have worn these. They started moving their production offshore, so to speak. And they found more price availability and whatnot. Okay, so these are not the best boots, okay. These required some break-in though. Like the Ropers, leather. Like the Ropers, we have a Goodyear welt with the stitching going all the way through from the welt to the leather sole. These have a bit bigger heel stack on them. And is it an all leather heel stack? I'm not sure if that's really a leather heel stack here, folks. I'm guessing no. But a thin rubber. It is definitely... Is it even nailed in? The Ropers, I believe, were nailed in. These are glued on. So these are like a cheap budget Western boot with all that great stitching on it. I love that stitching, to be honest. I really do. I'm not gonna lie. These are a nice traditional pair, a little more pointy-toed. Definitely leather here. However, the welt here is once again synthetic. So I would expect these to... You might be able to get one or two soles out of these, but they're not lined. That's good. The heel counter is leather. And I'm going to be honest, these are more like a traditional boot in terms of the soles. They're not veg tan on the bottom, but on the heel, there's a thin right on the heel where you go in ka-clunk. You definitely have right here around this, you have a leather heel counter or synthetic. It's not fabric. And then right below that is the beginning of your insole, and it feels like it's a short piece of leather on top of foam. But that's it. These suckers needed to be broken in. They hurt for weeks. They always fit really well. I thunked right into them really well. They're true to size for me. But the reason why I wanted to show these is not just because they're Justin's, who have kind of lost their luster in recent years, but because they were made in 2006, right after they moved production to Mexico. So sure enough, these are made in Mexico. And I will say this, I'm going to tell you this, their shank is sick. It's definitely steel. I mean, at least they have that. I mean, you gotta love a steel shank, and they definitely have a steel shank on them. But I'm pretty sure, see the traditional cut, this is a traditional Western, God, you might even call it, it's almost like a PNW boot, where it's cut so hard here on the heel. It's pretty cool, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of square toes, although I have work boots like that I showed you. I like the more rounded toes. I definitely hate the pointy ones. But, you know, to be honest with you, while I love these for nostalgia reasons, I would really love to have a pair of Chizos. If you can afford Chizos, and I'm not sure I ever will be able to, man, I'll tell you what, you get them. They're probably the best made Western boot in the United States today. But anyway, those are my Justins. Nothing much really to say. They're kind of no frills. All right, on to the next boot. Wanted to tell you a little story about the Justins before we get to the next boot. The reason why it was difficult for me to figure out what they were is because the boxes I noted in the beginning were not those that were specific to the boot that was inside. And I tried matching up the numbers. You got to go inside, and there's like a serial number on the inside of the shank of the boot. And I had to end up contacting Justin themselves, and there's a person there who does, that's pretty much what she does, is she looks at it. So I think it's Nancy, thank you so much. She found out what year they were, where, of course, we already knew where they were made, but also the retail price at the time. Retail price at the time for those in 2006 were $179. So I think somebody picked up those things for me on clearance, and they threw them in the wrong box. So anyway, that's the story there. But anyway, thanks to Justin though, because they actually told me everything I needed to know about how they were made and where they were made, that type of thing. So I really appreciate that. You got to give Justin some credit for that. All right, next. Now I want to thank Rose Anvil yet again for this. I noted that I wanted some mock toes, and the reason why I wanted some mock toes was because I wanted something that really worked on flat surfaces and better on cement than my DieHards that I showed you. And oh geez, this is just oh my gosh, the smell is unbelievable. I wanted some really flat soles, which is better on cement and also electrical hazards. So it kind of goes along with my Romeos a little bit, but these are better than my DieHards because these are Thorogoods. This is from the American Heritage Series. They're made in the USA, as you can see, are right to there. These are fully welted. And you can probably tell, I mean, this is a leather welt right here. And the stitching goes through here. They kind of have a double stitch here, Thorogoods does. Stitches through the sides and then it stitches through the welt. The welt does not go through the sole though. So you're stitching the welt to the boot. And then after this rubber sole, you've got just a thin piece of foam here, this really white foam in here. These are, man, I don't know if these are steel shanked, but they at least composite. I'll have to look and see if Rose Anvil did something on these. I do not know, but they're, Rose Anvil, if I remember, did something on these. And I decided I'd give them a shot. They were on sale, shocker. And I think I got these from Midwest Boots, actually. They were on sale, they had a good deal and a bunch of freebies they threw in with them. I haven't really worn them much. I have no insole in here extra, and I'm not going to. But the leather on here smells amazing. It's stripped down. As you can see, made in the USA here again. Stripped down, nothing but leather. I think they're 8-inch. Look at the seams on these. I mean, the seams are just incredible. The way, the craftsmanship that goes into these is perfect. You really couldn't ask for a better made boot around the, I'm going to say $250 range, somewhere around in there. High quality. Definitely you'll be able to resole these, but also flat for flat surfaces, which I really like. Electrical hazard component, and you know, nice stitching here. So I would, you know, I mean, look, if you're looking for USA stuff, Red Wings, Thorogoods. I decided I'd go with Thorogoods. I don't know why. I like the way they look better than Red Wings. There's a lot of boot makers out there that have boots of this similar style. And, you know, the American Heritage Series, 8-inch tobacco, you really can't go wrong here. I'm going to guess these are like 2.5 thick. I'm not sure what the Shore is on the soles. But they call it the Maxwear Wedge, which I'm assuming means Shore on this is going to be pretty high. These are not really soft. So I'm assuming these are going to last for a little while because it's so hard. But it's not so hard that you're not going to have some cushion. I would say these boots, I've been in them a little bit. They take a little bit of breaking in, not going to lie. Are they fairly decently soft? Sure, you bet. But for a mock toe, not steel toe, soft toe. Thorogoods are really good, and I highly recommend them. I would use these in the shop doing electrical stuff like I noted with the Romeos that I might use them for. But these definitely I would use for such a thing, up and down, you know, small steps, ladders, a little bit to hang electrical, but definitely walking around on flat surfaces. I like the wedge better for stuff like that than I do a heel, and that's part of the big reason why I got these. Plus, I wanted something made in the USA. I wanted something of a little higher quality than most everything we've seen but the Georges at the moment in terms of work boots. The Georges are not made in the USA, but I wanted to kind of take some time to just try out some of the American-made brands. And I can tell you these will last me probably for the rest of my life. And that's part of the reason why I got them. I'm not so sure the Georges would last me for the rest of my life, the Georgia boots, but I'm pretty sure these Thorogoods will, for the purposes that I use them for. So, there you go. Hang loose. One more to go. One more to go. Before I hop off on this, just wanted to show you, this is one of the things that I got with my Thorogoods. Basically, just extra laces, which is kind of nice to have on hand just in case. Anyway, Midwest boots. The last piece I want to share with you are boots that I got, mostly because on our homestead I've got a lot of woody, not really hilly, but a lot of woody property that we're going to be using on the homestead for heating the home. And it should be enough for us for our lifetime, especially if we engage in proper management and replant those already downed trees with new trees. I'm going to try and plant some Carolina pines and whatnot in there. There's some in there already, but I wanted to bring some from home. If I could do it, and I know I can't because they just don't grow very well there, I would plant ponderosa pine. And if you know anything about ponderosa pine, and even why I even bring that up, you'll know why I got these. When I was a kid, I had some loggers. We had to cut 15 quarter year. And I was a young kid, and they were cheap. I mean, they were not even made in the same style of construction that what I would say is one of the best boots that you can buy today. Drews. I would also take a look at whites. I think JK's, and there's another brand out there that I know I'm missing. The problem is that a lot of those boots are, you have a wait period, or you can have a wait period. The sizing on these, it's not lickety split. Everything that I've showed you, I know my size. Rarely is it ever off. I mean, not once has it really ever been off. George's, I'm the same size. Justin's, Roper's, Cat's. No matter what boot I get, or what sneaker I get even, I'm the same size all the way. That's not the case with logger boots. And I got these as a Christmas present to myself, really, because they were on sale, but also because this is bison leather. And I just loved the look of them. I mean, look, I mean, really, I just think they look freaking cool. You can tell on these that we have a leather heel boot stack here. And they're nailed in. I mean, this is high American craftsmanship. The only difference between, say, a Drews and a White's, or some of these other heritage boots, which these are heritage boots, or P&W boots, Pacific Northwest, is that these are made in Mexico. Part of the reason why that they're more affordable than Whites, which are anywhere between 100 to 150 or more, is because of, I think, where they were made. These are hand stitched and sewn. I mean, you cannot tell the difference. I mean, there's some slight differences. Rose Anvil, you know, I love you, brother. Rose Anvil was the one that really tipped my opinion over to Drews, because one, it was affordable, but two, they are made almost identically to the heritage boots that you see at White's and JK and some of these other places. The shank in here is unreal. The arch is unbelievably ridiculous. It is, the way it's constructed, obviously this is a Goodyear welt. These boots can be rebuilt. That's how well they're put together. In other words, you know, as long as you don't destroy destroy them, which, you know, it's possible you can patch them and whatnot, then these boots are going to be with you forever. This is a one and done. I want to thank Drew's Boots for corresponding with me. Kira, Brandon, two people who helped me there, were unbelievably great. Because these kind of boots you really can't screw up. And it's on these kind of boots that the sizing is different. I think part of that is because of the heel stack here, where you have to dip in and get your foot in, and you get a kathunk with these two. So usually what you'll be doing is sizing down a full size or a size and a half. So I'm a full size down on these, which is unheard of, but it's because of the different style of boot. The ways Rose Anvil explains it, they took the last from a traditional American heritage boot, logger boot, and they increased the toe box a little bit wider and the toe height just a little bit higher. That's probably the only modification on a traditional last on a P&W boot. And like my ropers, although much more higher quality, these are all pebbled here. I will say this, that everything in this boot is immaculate. The counters are all great. The leather welts, all wonderful. But on the bottom here, you're going to have veg tan leather for the insole. That means, as with all P&W boots, heritage made, they're going to be a bitch to break in. So I've tried these on, they fit, they really feel great, but because of the veg tan on the insole, it takes a long time to, I'm going to have to do it like this because my, well, it's a GoPro. What can you do? What can you do with GoPro? GoPro doesn't have a long battery life. They always screw up, it seems. They turn off. I've had so many problems with this camera. So I'm going to have to do the rest of it from the side. So the veg tan on the soles, can't really see them in here. So you're standing on leather, you're not standing on foam. And that is very hard in the beginning because what happens is you'll have a really tough boot to break in. It takes a long time to break these in, but the best thing about a veg tan leather insole is that it completely forms to your foot. And after that, there's nothing like it. So when I was a kid, I had really something kind of like this, cheaper, when we went and got wood every summer for the winter. And I wanted something like that again. Call it nostalgia. Call it wanting something that would last for me for the rest of my life. So I bit the bullet and got these Drew's boots. I cannot say enough that they are every bit worth the price that I paid for them, and probably more. And I paid for them on sale. You know, there's some nice little touches here, by the way. All of these here, by the way, these quick lace-ups are brass. The kiltie here is traditional to the boots. All this is going to take some working in. Some of it's still pretty stiff, but that's really par for the course on these things. The laces are leather. And I've got an extra pair of laces coming just because I want to have them on hand. And I also have a pair of 2mm Rose Anvil boot breakers coming for these because I'm going to use it. Just in case, you know, I really need it. They're not really a tight fit, but they're a snug fit on me. And that's, you know, maybe I could have gone a half size down. But generally speaking, my toe, when I mend them, is right around here. When I stand up, it moves to the end. Part of that is because of this heel stack here. When you're standing, your foot is more at an incline, like this. If you are interested in why this is the case, I mean, God, there's hardly any transition here. I mean, you cannot feel the edges. It's just immaculate construction. Good Lord, this is good. If you need, you look at this shank. Look at the shank here. I mean, it is pronounced, thick, stiff. I believe it's like leather on top of leather in the shank, by the way. But if you need any history on the logger boots here, which Drew's is a fine representation, then I would, if I were you, I would go to Rose Anvil and check out his video on the history of the logger. For me, brought back a lot of memories. So you bet I'll use these for work. You bet I'll use these for outside. I'll just say that these are roughed out because this is more durable side of leather. So the roughed out side here is because of that. Whereas if you get like, you go to any of your boots, cowboy boots, anything that's like shiny on the outside, you know, and you can scratch them. They're very easily scratchable, and then you'll notice it. That's not the case, at least on the toe part here of these loggers that I have. So Drew's, thank you very much, and Rose Anvil, a huge shout out to Rose Anvil on YouTube. I highly encourage you, subscribe to his channel. If you're looking for pretty affordable, well-made stuff to high-end heritage, high-quality made boots of all persuasions, not just, you know, work boots, but Western boots, all that stuff, then I highly encourage you to check out Rose Anvil. He's doing us a great service here. And what he usually does is he cut open a pair of these. Oh, it just about made me cry. And he shows you what's on the inside and goes through the construction, which he did for Drew's. And Drew's, the only difference between Drew's, I think he said a couple of things. That the stitching here on the bottom is a little bit thinner than maybe on some of the other heritage. And the stitching here on the Goodyear welt, there's 2 rows, if you'll notice here. The first row, let me see which row it is. Yeah, the inside row stitches the welt down. The outside row goes all the way through to the boot. The only difference he could tell is that maybe the stitching was a little bit thinner, the stitch itself, the thread, a little bit thinner than on some of the other boots. But that's it. Everything else is the same. All the leather and everything for whites and JKs and whatnot, they're all sourced from Mexico. These are all sourced from the same place. The only difference is they're made there and then shipped here. I can't complain. If it's good craftsmanship, who cares where it comes from? And I think Drew's has been able to keep high quality while also pretty much, since they're sourced in the same place, it makes sense to make it in the same place that it's sourced. I believe he said that the leather on this is 3.2 millimeters. I mean, that's sick, thick leather. So anyway, not to belabor the point, these are the biggest things I've ever bought, and I couldn't be more happy. And I highly recommend Drew's Boots and Rose Anvil if you're looking for boots for yourself. Okay, hang loose. Hope that was somewhat interesting. Happy New Year.